Yeah, I'm just really tired.
Okay, everybody, come on in and be seated. We're going to do things a little bit different here at this particular point because I'm going to take you back and introduce you again to that member that is not here that you never see. Old memory. Memory lane. Cousin Memory, we'll call him. Cousin Memory said, you know what? There are lots of things going on in life, and as things change up, we remember the things that mean something to us. And he said, have you ever talked to the audience out here about some of the things that they used to do? Well, no, really what we do is, yes ma'am, you come out there. Give her a hand, everybody. And I said, no, we really haven't talked about things that we used to do. We kind of talked about things, we have the songs that we used to sing. And Mary said, well, what you ought to do is talk about some of the things that used to go on. And I said, like what? He said, well, what did you do as a kid? All right, I'm going to turn it around to you. What did you do as a kid? Now stop to think about it. What did you do as a kid? Yeah. But I'll tell you something we did. We didn't have a lot of concerts like this. We didn't have TV. We didn't get to go to movies much. But we had a radio. Remember those? Remember those radios? I made a list. I looked back and tried to find some things that used to be on the radio. And reminding myself of this is what was on the radio. Well, my mother used to always turn the radio on and listen to her programs. I didn't bother her when she was listening to her program because you had to listen. You know, you didn't get to watch or anything like that. And she liked The Guiding Light on the radio. She liked Just Plain Bill. I don't know if y'all remember that. I remember the name. I do not remember the story. And she liked one called Helen Trent. I have no earthly idea what Helen Trent was all about. But in those days, I know it was wholesome. So therefore, okay. Some of the girls, I look back, well, what did they like? Date with Judy. Anybody remember a Date with Judy? Our Miss Brooks. Remember that one? My Friend Irma. Remember that one, okay? And then us kids, boys, I thought, well, I kind of remember some of the things I used to listen to. And sure enough, they were listed down there. The Lone Ranger was on there. Sergeant Preston of the Yukon. Guys, remember them? Bobby Benson and the B-Bar B Riders. That was, as a kid, that was it, because this was a kid that owned the ranch. And all these guys, cowboys, worked for him. And he was just a kid. Boy, that made us kids feel good. Gunsmoke was on. And then in the evening, Fibber McGee and Molly. You remember Fibber McGee and Molly opening that closet? All that stuff falling out. Amos and Andy. Lum and Abner. Ozzie and Harriet. All of them were on the radio. Then on Saturdays were special. Saturdays I like to wake up, and Mom always let me just stay in bed and listen to the radio. And I'd turn the radio on, and this ventriloquist guy, now we're talking on the radio, a ventriloquist. His name was Big John, and his dog was Sparky. Big John and Sparky. He didn't have to do a thing, just get on the microphone and talk, you know. He didn't have to throw his voice. We didn't know it. We could just visualize this puppet. All right, Superman was on, Buck Rogers, Howdy Doody, Tarzan. And here's one I'm wondering if you'll remember. Let's Pretend. I want you all to shake your head yes. Even though you may not remember, shake your head yes. Because tonight, right now, we're going to do Let's Pretend. Okay? You're with me. Play like you're on the radio. Well, not on the radio. You're not on the radio. You're sitting in the pew out here. But imagine yourself listening to the radio, and this is what you're going to hear. But here's where you're really going to imagine. You're going to imagine yourself in our Let's Pretend that where we're going in this story, you're going to be right there with us. So here you are. You are now outside of a relay station waiting for a stage to come in. Let's pretend. Stay with me. Stay with me. You're waiting for a stage to come in. Here comes the stage. Here it comes. Here. Well, that's not a stage. What is it? It's a wagon and a 20-mule team. What are they doing here? A wagon and a 20... Visualize. Visualize. A wagon and a 20-mule team. Here they come. Here they come. Here they come. They're getting here. I'm driving. No, don't call me a backseat driver. I'm driving this 20-mule team. Okay. I come up. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. And I get off the stage and you're watching. I say, okay, folks, how many of y'all are going to the Red River Valley Station tonight? And all of y'all are waving at me. You're going, you're going, you're going. Yeah, you're going. Okay. The stage can't be here, folks. We're all going to have to load up on this wagon. So go ahead and find you a place. Now, we don't have safety belts. You're going to have to hang on. And I'm going to tell you what, the road gets rough. And we're going to bounce around a little bit. Now, I'm going to break from the story to tell you, remember Ma and Pa Kittle? It was raining torrents, just muddy everywhere. Pa Kittle went out and got in his wagon, had an old mule hooked up. Get it. He's going down an old dirt road and he sees one of the farmers sitting up on his porch, way up there. He turns his horse and his wagon and they go through the yard. It's raining, muddy, leaving ruts about this deep. He drives up, he waves, they wave back at each other and they say, Paul Kettle says, just drop by to say howdy, howdy. Goes on, leaving the ruts in the yard. You know, but this is the kind of stuff we had to imagine back in our day. Okay, you're loading up. You're getting on the wagon. Everybody's on the wagon. Here we go, here we go. No, don't take that. Everybody's on the wagon. You were wrong on that. You're going to be a good boy. Be a good boy. All right, you're on the wagon. Here we go. Ah, get along, mule. Snap, snap, mule. Oh, get along, mule train. Hippity hopping over mountain train. Seems they're never gonna stop. Clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clopping along. There's a case of borax cleaner for the folks way out yonder. There's a rifle in the pack for a soldier who went to wander. There's a dress of calico for a pretty little Navajo. Get along, mule, yeah, yeah. Get along, mule train. Come on, mule, get on. Clippity clopping over hill and plain. Seems they're never gonna stop. Clippity clop, clippity clop, clippity clopping along. There's a plug of chaw tobacco for a miner in Corona. There's some rheumatism pills for the settlers in the hills. There's a Bible in the pack for the Reverend Mr. Black. Get along, mule. Yeah! Come on, mule! Come on! Get along, mule train! Wait, whoa, mule, there it is. There's the Red River Valley. Whoa, mule, whoa. Red River Valley. Here we are at the venue. Folks, you're going to have to get out now, get out. Don't fall down getting out of here. Hang on tight where you won't hurt yourself because we're going to go inside. Now you're inside. You're coming in, and I'm saying to you, look around. Look what they've done to this building. Now, some of y'all may not know it, that this used to be the First Methodist Church right here in Byers, Texas. But before it was the First Methodist Church in Byers, Texas, it was the First Methodist Church somewhere else. And it was built somewhere around the year 1900 and moved into here and placed right here in 1906. 1906. That was before most of y'all were around. Now, you don't remember that, but you remember somebody telling you. So here you are, and you are right here in this building. The McMahons bought the place, a couple of 3 years ago, I guess it was, 4 years ago maybe now, and they have restored it. This is now what it looks like. Let's look around a little bit. They've done a marvelous job. It's just gorgeous. They got the same old bell. You heard the bell ringing earlier when you came in? Okay. This is the same one that was ringing back in 1906. And here we are, 2021. Well, Memory and I were talking as we were coming in here, and Memory said, what are you going to do when you get to the Valley venue? And I told him, I said, well, I'm not real sure. He said, I'll tell you what you do. Why don't you tell them about that story of the prospector? I said, what story are you talking about? He said, the one about the desert sands. I said, oh, the shifting, whispering sands, huh? He said, that's the one. That's the one. Why don't you talk about that? I said, well, they probably won't remember, but I'll give you a background on it. In 1955, Billy Vaughn and his orchestra and choral group did a version of the Shifting, Whispering Sands. A guy narrated, and then they had a choir singing. And then in 1957, Walter Brennan did a narration of the same thing. Then in 1955, Jim Reeves did a version. Well, this is my version. The Shifting, Whispering Sands, 2021. Well, you see, I remember back in Arizona, we were out there doing some prospecting, and they said to me to watch closely, don't get to that valley. And I said, which valley is that? They said, that valley of the Shifting, Whispering Sands. And I said, is it out there, really? Just heard about it? No, it's there. So I took my old mule and we were going along, and sure enough, I talked to Rise and I looked over and I saw it. There it was, the valley of the Shifting, Whispering Sands. I saw the silent windmills, the crumbling water tanks, the bones of cattle and birds, picked clean by buzzards, bleached by the desert suns. I nearly stumbled over a crumbling bugboard that was nearly covered by the sands, and stopping to rest, I heard a tinkling, whispering sound. Suddenly realized that even though the wind was quiet, the sand did not lie still. I seemed to be surrounded by a mystery so heavy and oppressive that I could scarcely breathe. For days, weeks, I wandered aimlessly in this valley, seeking answers to the many questions that just raced through my fevered mind. Where was everyone? Why the dry wells and the barren valley where people must have lived and died? And finally, I could go no farther. My food and water gone. I sat down and buried my face in my hands, and resting thus, I learned the secret of the shifting, whispering sands. How I managed to escape from the valley, I don't know, but now to pay my final debt for being spared, let me tell you what I learned out there in the desert all those years ago. You see, when the night is oddly quiet and the breeze seems not to blow. You'd think the sand was resting, but no. You'll find this isn't so. It's shifting, softly shifting as it slowly moves along. And for those who stop and listen, it'll sing a mournful song of sidewinders and the horn of a lonely chaparral. Endless sunny days and moonlit nights, and the coyote's lonely air, and the stars. The stars seem you could touch them as you lay and gaze on high. And those heavens, oh, we're sure hoping we'll be calling when we die. Yes. It always whispers to me of the days of long ago. How the settlers and the miners fought the crafty Navajo. How the cattle roamed the valley. People worked the land. But now everything is covered by the shifting, whispering sands. How the miner left his buckboard, went to work his claims one day, and his birds broke their halters when they thought he'd gone to stay. They wandered far in search of water, and old Sidewinder's well, and there, their bones picked clean by buzzards that were circling when they fell. Oh, they found the aged miner lying dead upon the sands. And for weeks they really wondered if he died by human hands, but they dug his grave and laid him on his back and crossed his hands. But his secret is still hidden by the shifting, whispering sands. Now, this is what they whispered to me in that quiet desert air of the cattle and the people and the miner lying there. But if you want to learn their secret, journey through this barren land, and I'm sure you'll hear the story of the shifting, whispering sands. That's that story. How many of y'all, thank you. And I've been wanting to do that since 1957. How many of y'all remember as a kid, used to take trips? Now some of y'all are too young. Yeah, you're not going to remember what I'm talking about. But here's what you're going to have to do. What we don't do anymore. Use imagination. Imagination. Today you hear kids say, I'm bored, I'm bored. Back in our day, we never got bored. Never got bored. We used our imagination. A rock became a horse. It's simple. You know what I'm saying. We use your imagination. And how many of y'all, using your imagination for some of you, remember getting in a car before the days of air conditioning? Okay, no air conditioner in the car. If you wanted to get cool, you had better have a wet wash rag and you roll down the window. One of these days, somebody's going to come up with a little old handle. They're going to say, what in the world is that? And they say, it's a handle to a window. And these kids won't have the slightest idea what you got. Roll down that window, and the wind's blowing. So you take a wet wash rag, you get pretty cool. But if you didn't have a wet wash rag, that wind was hot coming in. Now, yes, we had radios in cars, but it didn't do any good to turn them on because you couldn't hear them with the wind blowing out there and made so much noise. So you had a few choices. One, you could go to sleep. And a lot of times you did. Two, you could sit and gaze out the window and daydream. Three, you could get somebody else in the car with you to sing. And so we sang. Now I'm going to ask you folks to sing along with me, because we did the same thing. I gotta brag on my daughter right there. My daughter is up here all the way from Olympia, Washington. And so we got her to singing melody, and her sister and my wife and I would go along and sing harmony. And so we had a good 4-part harmony going. We could sing, we could just sing and sing and sing. But a lot of times it wasn't a song you could really harmonize to, just nonsense songs. Somebody's going to look up and say, yeah, I remember 99 bottles of beer on the wall, yeah. And goes on forever and ever and ever. Well, these guys that I sing with, when I came up with a song here, they all said, nah, nobody will remember that. And I said, I bet they do. You better remember, because I said you would. All right, so y'all remember and sing along with me. Found a peanut, found a peanut, found a peanut just now. I just now found a peanut just now. Cracked it open, cracked it open, cracked it open just now. I just now cracked it open just now. It was rotten, it was rotten, it was rotten just now. Oh, just now it was rotten just now. Whoops, I ate it anyway, just now. I just now ate it anyway, just now. Got sick. Y'all remember? Yeah, you remember. I thank you for singing, even if you may not have remembered it. You sung along, and I appreciate that. Now, these guys that's with me up here, notice, they did it. They did it, and they remembered. Okay. I want to show you something else you remember. Remember getting in the car. Now, this history lesson right quick started in 1926, and that leaves most of us out. But it went all the way to 1963, and that included some of us. So as we were driving along in the car, stay with me, you're driving along, and you all of a sudden, don't give away the punchline. Don't give it away. You're driving along, and all of a sudden you see a series of signs. A series of, we waited for those. Did you know they started up in Minnesota? And so they totally all over the country. Now, we did our traveling in Colorado and New Mexico, a little bit in Arizona, but we saw these signs. There was normally 4 signs and then a commercial. Remember? All right, we're going to do that. Hang on just a minute. I got to get around here and make sure I don't trip over this wire. We're going to do this here, and you're going to remember. I'm going to put the microphone down. First sign. We drive about a mile. Second sign. Third sign. Drive about a mile. Fourth sign. And the 5th sign said what? I was hoping you'd remember that. Those were the fun days, and those were the kind of activities that we can remember doing just time and time again, and the days were just fun. There was a guy down in New Orleans, his name was Billy Ledbetter. Some of you remember because he was known as Leadbelly. And Leadbelly was a musician and kind of an entertainer of sorts. And he had a sister that lived in New Orleans. He'd go over to New Orleans, and he would say to his sister, said, I want to sing to your little girl, my little niece, and sing her to sleep when it's time. And she told him, okay, you can do that.